Here we
Hey,
are.
we're back.
Another
Good.
week.
Hey, good. Another week. dSIPRouter. So good to see you. I know that we talk all the time, but we don't necessarily take this time to kind of chat about what's going on in dSIPRouter, like future land, right? What we want to kind of focus on and some of the stuff that we're challenging with. So I don't know. This week, Tyler, I thought we would talk about kind of a new feature that we've been talking about for a little bit that people have wanted, and I think it's kind of like a feature that we need to have in order to do kind of more enhanced high availability. So I figured we can jump into that if that's okay with you.
Sure. This is the Fusion PBX high availability that we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. It is something that people have been talking about for a while and asking us to do, and we're finally going to do it. We have a customer that really wants it, so I figured, hey, let's do it. But in order to do that effectively, we need to have a few things in place in order to do HA properly. Um, I think that's true, at least. I think so. Um, I think that many of you know that we have integration with Fusion right now with synchronizing the domains. So that way we can do domain routing based on the domains that are defined in Fusion PBX. And so if you have multiple Fusion PBX servers, um, it's so you have multiple Fusion PBX servers, and there's different use cases of this. So let's just take the use case where let's not even we don't even have to touch HA just yet. But let's just say you have multiple Fusion PBX servers, and they're all independent. Maybe you have a active and standby Fusion PBX box, so only one box is active at a time. But like and then you want to use dSIPRouter to route calls from your carrier into a particular, Fusion PBX instance. The problem is that you need to then go. dSIPRouter needs to know about these different DIDs, and in order for it to know about these DIDs, you need to put them in like manually right now, and that's it's kind of a pain in order to do that. So if I have, let's just assume I have these three PBX boxes, Fusion PBX boxes, and they all have a standby node in it. So HA from the standpoint of Fusion is based on the fact that it's using something like keep alive or heartbeat, something of that nature
Like a
to
floating
keep them
IP.
on. Yep, a floating IP of some sort.
Yep.
And so kind of I gotta quit being like, oh, it has to look perfect. Okay. Let me do that. All right, cool. So right now, what would need to happen is that you would need to go and say, okay, I have these different domains, and here, let me just change it to XYZ. Okay, and I want to be able to route calls to these different Fusion PBX boxes. What I have to do today is I actually have to go in and actually set these DIDs up in dSIPRouter and route them to the Fusion PBX box. And that's a lot of work if you have a bunch of DIDs. So what I'm proposing here is that we actually have a DID one-way sync. So each one of these Fusion PBX boxes that are live in active state is a better way of putting it. They would be synchronizing their DIDs with dSIPRouter. So another way of saying it, dSIPRouter would be pulling these DIDs into dSIPRouter. But when you do that, there becomes a problem. And I'm assuming you can probably see what problems that I'm referring to already. I don't know. But this part makes sense, right?
Yeah, that all makes sense.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
just a
go
little,
ahead.
let's go to a little bit of background for that. When we're doing just domain proxying, most of the time the Fusion PBX will also be, sometimes they're trunking straight to the carrier and you have all your DIDs over there. Sometimes you just have your customer DIDs there and then you're trunking through dSIPRouter to your carrier.
That is very much true. So in this situation is where dSIPRouter. So actually here, just make sure that's 100% clear. I'm just going to push this over here. And
Ever so slowly.
Over so slowly. It's crazy. So if we take what you're saying, which is very valid, and we do this is your carrier. And so in some cases, you are doing this with your from Fusion, you're calling outbound to the carrier yourself. And that is an okay approach as well. But sometimes people want central DID management and, well, no, sorry. A lot of people want more of like one place for all their carriers to be housed. So this is one approach. And now I'm going to go to another approach here. And in that approach, I'm going to remove these lines here. And I'm going to move this over here. And so all of the carrier communication is going from your Fusion box from Fusion. So the call will come in from let's say a UA wants to make a call. So in this case, this is domain X. So the call would be routed to Fusion PBX 1, and then on that call, but the registration will be mapped to Fusion PBX 1. And then let's say an invite goes out to make a phone call. It will go through, hit Fusion PBX 1, and then from there, oops, sorry, I changed screens. I'm supposed to be here. And then in that case, calls would then be routed out of Fusion back to dSIP, and then dSIP would actually make the call to the carrier. And so that way, all of your carriers would be here instead of like attached to each one of the Fusion boxes in this picture here. So this is really what I'm referring to here. And in that case, we need to have the DIDs to be here, because for the outbound is not as important, but the inbound is really important, because if a call comes in to say to the 555, well, I got these numbers. I copied it, so I need to make it the numbers unique. So this makes sense. Okay, cool. But let's just say a call comes in here, and let's see here. I'll just
from the carrier dSIPRouter.
Yeah, so here you go. Yep, so this call comes in from the carrier 444-333-222. Well, it hits dSIP. dSIP needs to figure out, well, which Fusion box do I send this to? Is it Fusion PBX 1? Is it Fusion PBX 2? Or is it Fusion PBX 3? And the only way it would know that is if dSIP understands which DIDs are assigned to which Fusion PBX box and to which domain. And actually, I don't think like Fusion, like dSIP, I'm talking this out now. So this is where you can like just jump in. It's like, we don't necessarily need to understand the domain. We just necessarily need to know the Fusion box, because as long as we send it to the right box, Fusion will then say, oh, this phone number belongs to this domain, and it will route it to the proper domain.
Yeah, exactly. So in our sync feature, it's a pull from the Fusion database. It'd be basically the same thing. We're pulling, we hit sync on that endpoint group, and then it goes out to it and says, oh, well, this Fusion box, map that DID to that endpoint group. That's
Yes.
a proposed new feature, right?
Yes, that's the proposed new feature. Here goes the issue. Now, if I go over here to inbound routes, which is where this would show up, very much like how we do it with domain sync today, if we, we'll automatically, once we pull the number in, let's take that 4443332 number. So the second one, we will automatically map it to an endpoint. We'll map it to its endpoint group automatically because we know that the endpoint group is assigned. We know which endpoint group it's a part of. So we can do that. The question is, do we care about what domain is in? I know we don't care, like right now, like I just said, like we can send it to the Fusion box, it'll figure it out. But do we, like we as the user, should we expose that this particular phone number is from this domain? I think it would be helpful to them to know that information. What you think?
So regular DIDs, we wouldn't have a domain associated to it. I mean, if you name usually it'd be like a region, right? So it's like sharding your customers over regions. It would say under that like FusionPBX 1 or FusionPBX US South.
Well, the reason why I'm saying that is that, like, if you go and log into Fusion, you'll be able to say, okay, this phone number belongs to this domain. You'll have to go log into the domain, and then you can look at the phone numbers. Or I guess you can look at all the phone numbers by saying, give me all of them. But what I'm trying to do is basically, should we make it easier for somebody to say, they look at this phone number, they won't know what customer, aka domain, it belongs to. So I added this field here called server/domain. Server makes 100% makes sense because we want to know that this phone number belongs to this server. But what I'm asking is, like, should we go to the next level? Because we're already pulling this information, so we can say this number also belongs to this domain. So this way they could come in here and say, all right, give me all the phone numbers for a particular customer, again, aka domain, and they have them there. So I'm thinking that's a useful thing, but I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Yeah, I think that'd be useful. We could actually just pop that in the description. So we already got that field there. I think it's called name.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So that's gonna be automatically synced. So we can just put that as like 44444 at FusionPBX1.com.
So we can just do that. So basically, hold on, we can do. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea, actually. Here, let me okay, and okay. So now if I hit here, I think it's this one. Okay, cool.
I think we probably should kind of highlight the difference between domains and how the carrier is going to connect in this setup. So usually when you're using the FusionPBX synchronization feature, it'll sync in all your domains, and that's really for your phones and customers to connect in via that domain. Well, the domain that your carriers are coming to, it can't conflict with that. So usually they would come to like the external IP address or just a different A record that you have associated with the dSIPRouter, but it's not going to match the same domains that you're using for your customers.
Right.
I'm going to put a note to that in the documentation too. I know people get tripped up on the priority of when it looks for domains versus routes, like inbound or outbound routing.
Right. Okay. And then this will go over here. Bring that to or bring to front. No. Okay, and then we got this one. Okay. So then, yeah. All right. So yeah. So we'll just So good call on that. So we'll just add it to. We'll just add it there, and then and we'll automatically assign it to the right endpoint group. And now the question is this: like in domain sync, once these are set up, we don't let, since it's a one-way sync, we don't let people change these. So these here will go away. Oops, can't do that. But these boxes here will go away. I'm just going to put like a X on it right now. And the question is do we want that to go away? Actually, here, I'll use this a square just to cover these up for right now. I'll just do that for right now. That way.
Mac might be having connectivity issue. Maybe that was me.
What's that?
A little bit of connectivity issue.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I had an internet issue earlier. So, actually, do we want people to override this? I'm like, should we be not like, just like in domain sync, we don't allow people to delete these because it's doing a one-way sync. But is there a reason why we would want them to update these or change these or any?
So it does bring up a good, I was just about to ask this question. So I think we are not, we're not disabling the domains when they're synced from Fusion, right?
We do. They can't delete them. No, they can't delete them.
Okay.
They can't delete them or modify them. Yeah, they can't delete them or modify them.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't checked that in a hot minute. So yeah, I think that we probably want to do the same thing there. And then we just make sure we clean it up when, whenever you pull that, whenever you delete that endpoint group, or turn sync off.
Yeah, well, so here goes that's the edge cases that we got to deal with, because there's like three edge cases I could think of. One edge case is that they actually move the actual domain. They move it from one server to another. Let's just say one of the servers die and they need to move it to another instance. In that case, let's just say a server dies, right? and it can't run the sync anymore. So now it's stuck with this DID there that's not mapped to a server. Now, if they bring up a new server, when the sync runs on that server, it's going to actually override it, because a DID can only be mapped once, right? So let's say like server A dies, server C comes up, and it has the same, DIDs on it. It will then override it, and then it'll be fine. So maybe that. Let me just write these down. I think that situation. So edge cases, so edge cases.
This might be a good use for like options. I know that the UAC module can periodically send out options. Same thing with dispatcher and derouting. So maybe we use that as a keep alive mechanism. And then you can do like an event route or kick off like an async database call. That might be the way to go with that. because as soon as it stops responding to options, you know that server is down. Those DIDs are no longer valid. I mean, it would route to nowhere anyways, but maybe part of your failover process is that you spin up a new region or fail over to a different region. Another FusionPBX box comes up.
Yeah, I guess if a box dies and it has so there's two parts to that. If a box dies, so if a box is in a active standby situation, if one box dies, the other one will come up, and that one, it will be just fine. But the situation that is bad is if you only have one of these boxes, that box dies, these DIDs are still pointing to that dead box. And a sync hasn't happened yet because a new box hasn't been brought up yet. Now these phone numbers are going to go to dead air. But
well, if it doesn't respond, if it just sends it out to
the endpoint,
if it just sends it there and doesn't get a response, they just won't get a response to the call. I think there's an edge case there that you're kind of hitting on. If you have like a failover process there, and the DIDs move over to somewhere else as part of your failover process. I guess if there was like a different FusionPBX, or if they're doing in like an active replication,
right,
which is a even harder use case. Several edge cases there as well, but yeah, these are all the things that we think about at night, folks.
Right,
SIP routing edge cases.
So if you migrate to a new FusionPBX box, this is say your one box is dying and you want to bring a new box up, or maybe you want to make it bigger. If you migrate to a new FusionPBX box, that will work just fine because the sync will happen and it will automatically update itself to the new box. If this is say the box changed, like the domain name changed or something of that nature to a new box, then when the new box, so basically it'll be like, hey, I got a new box. I'm going to bring up the new box. I'm going to shut down the old box. And then the new box should start saying, hey, these are my DIDs. Route the calls to me. So that should be fine.
In like a DNS failover scenario, or like a maintenance.
Yeah, either a maintenance or they migrate or upgrade to a new Fusion, migrate or upgrade to a new FusionPBX box. Like there's all they need to do is basically add the box to dSIPRouter, set up the Fusion, set up the synchronization, and then so both boxes would be on at the same time. And so the problem comes is that whatever box synchronizes last is the box where the DIDs would be going. So so we may just need to figure out, like, we maybe need to give guidance. In this first release, we may just give guidance and say, all right, bring up your second box or your new box, make sure it's good, then turn on sync, and then bring down your other box. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to figure out the best way, or we flag that old box as, you remove the FusionPBX sync from that old box so it doesn't sync anymore. And now the new box.
A case where you have a button for that. I think that. Yeah. So like if you're in the middle, if you're doing a maintenance or migration, some maintenance where you're adding another Fusion box, and like maybe let's say you got such high load on this Fusion box, you need to split some of those customers over. I think that's like a perfect case for that. To your point, if we could just have like a button where it says resync, and like an API call, so that kind of help with the failover, like the automated failover type of things.
So yeah, I think that may make sense. Is that, but the resync would happen at the endpoint level group. So maybe we would go to the endpoint group and say, because this is like the same, it's like all this is basically is driven off of the endpoint group. So if you go to the endpoint group and you say, all right, force a resync, and then it'll resync itself to dSIP the domains, and it'll resync the DIDs from that server. So that may work. Okay, cool. So anyway, I think what I wanted to, so I think what we did here in this this session here was just kind of go through, and we spent more time on it than what we wanted to, but I think this was good because this is one of these features that I think that we wanted to air out, kind of build it in public. People who are listening to the stream or viewing it later, give us feedback on this and what you think, you need in order to do high availability DIDs and Fusion the way you need it, and then that will help kind of formate our opinion on how we can best implement this. So that's what I wanted to talk about this week, man. Anything for you? Anything else you wanted to chat about?
No, I think people really like getting a little like peek under the covers on the development side, and I think it's really good for us to get RCs out, get requests for comments. For anybody who's not in our Slack channel, we have a community Slack channel. I'll post that in the show notes. You can go hang out there. We'll post these same questions over there as well. Feedback helps us drive the development towards what features you guys actually need for your businesses. So definitely send us a message on Slack. Feel free to reach out. I think we spent enough time on like the Fusion one. We'll probably cut to I got a few fun features that I want to talk about, but we'll wait for next week to get into KYC and customer provisioning.
Yeah, I'm interested in that because I know you've been doing a lot of work with that with some of our customers. So let's do that. So I don't have anything else, man. Tyler, we'll talk soon. Everybody else, have a great rest of the week, and we'll see y'all next week. Take care.
See you guys.